Part 1. The letter, from an Esseer in Jerusalem to his brethren, his brothers in Alexandria. Peace be with you, dear brethren, or dear brothers. You have heard of the things that have happened in Jerusalem and Palestine in general. You were right to believe Jesus to be our brother and a member of our order, with brotherhood, of whom his friends among the Romans and Jewish people relate, that he taught and wrought great wonders, and finally suffered the death of martyrs in Jerusalem. He was born in Nazareth, by the entrance to the beautiful valley in which the river Kishon rushes down the steep declivities of the Mount Tabor. He was put under the protection of the order by a member of our brotherhood, by whom his father and mother found a refuge on their flight to Egypt. There are, as you know, many of our brethren living on the borders of Egypt. In fine, Jesus was admitted into the order at the same time with John in their years of early manhood, so that would be John the Baptist. He lived then in Galilee and had just returned from a visit to Jerusalem, where he was watched by our brotherhood. Jutha was the place of his initiation. Do some research to see if that place actually existed. Close by the grand castle of Masada, where the mountains raise their lofty peaks above the surrounding country. My dear brethren or brothers, you may all have been convinced that he has been a member of our order, as well by the doctrines he has taught the people and the signs of recognition, especially the baptism and the breaking of the bread and passing of the wine, as well as by his being baptized by one of our brethren or brothers, John the Baptist, in the Jordan, near the shore of the Dead Sea, in a westerly direction. For baptism, as you know, has been since time immemorial a sacred institution in our order. You wonder that the belief in the supernatural miracles should gain foothold in our midst, when you know that we all have to bear the responsibility for the actions of one of our members. Therefore, you ought to know that the rumour is like a wind. When it commences, it drives the pure air far ahead, but in its progress it receives all vapours and mist from the earth. And when it has travelled some distance, it creates darkness instead of the clear, pure air of which it was at first composed, and at last consists solely of the particles it has received during its progress. It is even so with the rumours concerning Jesus and his fate. Furthermore, remember that the inspired men who have written and spoken of him, the disciples, apostles, etc., were often carried away by the spirit of enthusiasm or eagerness, and in their devotion and simplicity they believed all things told them about him by the multitudes, the people, many people, right, who were even more simple-minded and superstitious than they. Bear ever in mind also that in accordance with our rules, the secrets of our holy brotherhood at all times remained unknown to these writers, and that only our higher members had any knowledge about the secret assistance and protection Jesus received from us. And finally, do not forget that our rigid laws prohibit us from interfering or taking any active part in the councils or plans of the rulers of the land. Okay, so they couldn't do anything there. They couldn't save him from the crucifixion, right? Therefore, we have acted quietly and secretly and have suffered the law to run its course. At the same time, we secretly aided and assisted our friends in ways which did not infringe the law and our rules, brotherhood rules, right? Know then that Jesus was and is our brother, and made himself vowed, we took a vow, when he at Jutha was made an initiate of our order, that our brotherhood thenceforth should be to him as father and mother. And truly we have proved us so in the spirit and the letter of our law. I write this to you, my brethren or brothers, in this truth and knowledge of our brotherhood, that you may know and understand the truth concerning what has come to pass. I tell you only of the things I know, and I have seen it all with mine own eyes, and have taken a deep interest and an active part in all these transactions. Now, at the time that I write this to you, the Jews have several times eaten of the lamb of the Passover, since our brother was crucified, our brother whom we were loved and in whom God was glorified. Nevertheless, I have forgotten, this is the claim witness, I have forgotten none of the things I have lived to see come to pass. Indeed, as true are the words that pass from my lips, and the thoughts that I write, so saying he's not lying, right? And what he says or what he writes. As verily do I believe from the depths of my soul that Jesus was chosen of God and begotten by the eternal Spirit. He called himself the Son of God, and he proved himself to us by teaching in the name of God. He also lived a holy life and was deeply learned in the secrets of all the kingdoms of nature. In all these things we of the secret brotherhood acknowledge God, and the man among us who can say, Behold, or look, take note, I am of God. Verily he is so. For he that is not cannot say it, not having the word in his heart or in his mind, and not having learned it from the Spirit. It would be the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. I will now tell you of the parentage of this man who loved all men, whom we feel the highest esteem, that you may have full knowledge of him. He was from his infancy brought up for our brotherhood. Indeed, he was predicted as by Esseer, whom the woman thought to be an angel. Okay, so one of their brothers, who was an Esseer, went to Mary, not Gabriel the angel. This woman was given to many imaginings, delving into the supernatural and into the mysteries of life, and she found deep interest and pleasure in the things she could not explain. Our brother, the Esseer, has acknowledged to us his part in these things, and has persuaded the brotherhood secretly to search for and protect the child. And Joseph, who was a man of great experience in life and deep devotion to the immortal truth, so a messenger of our order was influenced not to leave the woman, nor to disturb her faith in the sacredness of her experience, and to be a father to the child until our brotherhood should admit him as a novice. Thus, during your flight to Egypt, Joseph was secretly protected and guided by our order, and conducted as guest to the congregated brotherhood by the Mount Cassius, as a slope of the mount on which the Romans had built a temple dedicated to Jupiter. The Esseers who lived there were commissioned to introduce Joseph, his wife, and the child into the congregation, that they might see our way of worshipping and praising God, the Creator of all, and learn the ceremony of eating the consecrated bread and drinking the holy wine. At our request, they informed our brotherhood in Jerusalem how it all had been done. Joseph was placed among the half circle of men on the right hand, and Mary, his wife, among the women on the left hand. There they, with our brethren, ate the bread and drank the wine, and all together sang the holy hymns. Further, Joseph here vowed that before the elder of our brotherhood that he renounced forever any claim on the child. It wasn't his son, but he'd take care of him, right? Who was thenceforth to belong to the order, saying his son would then be initiated into that brotherhood or that order. He was then made acquainted with the salutation and sign of the Holy Brotherhood, which would enable him during his travels to make himself known to these. It also directed him which route to take to arrive in safety, because a lot of robbers and vagabonds and killers on the road, right? This route was through a part of the country where there lived many enlightened and learned Jews who were well versed in the scriptures and devoted to study. Among these our order has many members. These were ordered to protect Joseph and be hospitable to him, even before he arrived among them. This was in the beautiful country of Heliopolis, with its splendid forests, and near unto the temple of Jehovah erected by Onias. When the peril in Galilee was over and the Roman Warus was pillaging in Judea, making that country unsafe, Joseph went to Nazareth, which is situated nearby the steep mountain of Tabor. But soon Archelaus brought new terror over Galilee. It's Herod's son, right? Archelaus. And Joseph was persuaded by a brotherhood or brethren to go to Jerusalem, on his way passing Luhim, and there seek protection by a brotherhood. This was duly accomplished, and at Passover they arrived at Nisan. Here I myself spoke with them. I was then in the lower degree of the order, and in obedience to the command of the elder carried a message to Joseph. I found him to be a man of candour and wide experience, who spoke with great judgment and wisdom. Indeed, he exhorted Mary to describe distinctly the differences between reality and dreamy imagination. She too, tell it. Come on, you got to learn the difference. Okay, it's reality and this fantasy world you're living in of imagination, dreamy imagination. Things as different as the day is from the night, and instructed her how to quiet her mind through prayer and devotion. Refocus it, right? Her mind was filled with fiery imaginings that often lifted her thoughts to heavenly things and made her indifferent to the things of the earth. In consequence, she strongly influenced the mind of her son to the study and contemplation of immortal truth. Joseph commended her for her good influence over the child. He also instructed Jesus in knowledge and wisdom, and protected his pure mind against the power of overstrained imagination. But he must have let him be a child at the same time, right? During that period. And when the child Jesus spoke with the scribes concerning holy things, his doctrines gave deep offence to the Pharisees in Jerusalem, in that they considered them dangerous and incredible. Very different story from the Bible, right? They're quite amazed in him, in all of them, because who was this child? Whose was this kid? You know, knows all this stuff. He speaks like one of us. He knows more than us. Yeah? How does he know all this? Inasmuch as the Pharisees held rigidly to the traditions and details of the law of Moses, or the Mosaic law, they were deeply aggrieved against everyone who did not believe with them in what they believed, possibly, and who did not keep in outward form to the ceremonials of their temple service. They gave alms in the sight of the multitudes, the charitable gifts, etc., etc. They taught of the kingdom of the dead, and of the influence of good angels and evil spirits, and of the future grand eternal destiny of the Jewish people. Although they had many friends among the common people, and exercised great power and influence with them, nevertheless the Spirit of God dwelt neither in their houses nor in their tongues. But Joseph had come to be of our doctrines, and without figures or mysteries, he fixed them in the mind of the growing child. Indeed, the child thus early was touched by the miseries of the people, and they were enraptured to hear him teach the word of God. The scribes knew him to be from Galilee, and they despised him as they despised the whole people of Galilee. Didn't they do that with Nazareth? Or maybe not. But some of our brethren went to the temple, and without betraying themselves through our holy salutation, kept him in their midst, that they might thus protect him. So they went along, and they probably stood in a square, and gave the old higher, lower signs, certain salute. Only others that were in that brotherhood knew. They knew their salutations, that they might thus protect him. When the divine child had spoken publicly in the temple, then were our brothers apprehensive of the dangers that threatened him, for they knew that the Pharisees and the rabbis were in private council, fully determined to banish him from Galilee because of his doctrines. They therefore lured him to the synagogue of Sophirim by manifesting to him an assumed interest in the law, for they perceived that in all his ardour and enthusiasm he was influenced by nothing else. Thus it came to pass that he was lost from his father and mother in the large city, which then contained many people from the whole country, because of the Passover. Our friends, the Esseers, were informed of these things, and they saw that it was not safe nor wise for the child to remain any longer among the Pharisees, as much more as a rabbi who had become a true friend and teacher to the child no more could be present to moderate his zeal and ardour, contending as he was with the immoral hypocrites, as the rabbi had gone on a journey to Jericho. Therefore we informed Joseph and his wife, whom we found in double grief, inasmuch as they at the time had also been informed that the husband of Elizabeth, Mary's friend, had died. That would be John's father, John the Baptist's father. What's his name? I can't remember his name, but the one who was inside the temple, right, doing the incense, and he was blinded because he didn't believe that his wife would get pregnant or something like that, right? Thus, for 3 days, Mary had been searching for her son in deep sorrow, and at the same time she felt a strong desire to go and see her friend. Okay, she was going to go see Elizabeth. At last, on the 4th day, she found her son at Sophirim, according to the information given her by our brotherhood. And Nabin, the rabbi who had taken such deep interest in the child, was a secret member of our order, and had received instructions to protect him. Thus it came to pass that Mary, her husband, and her son returned to Jutha. Here she found her friend Elizabeth in great grief with her son, whose name was John, i.e. John the Baptist. John the Baptist to be. Here the two youths were much together, and together they talked much about the sacred and the divine. So, if Mary and Elizabeth were just friends, then John would not have been Jesus' cousin, right? Here the two youths were much together, and together they talked much about the sacred and the divine. Often they wandered into the wildest parts of the mountain regions. They grew to be devoted friends. and their attachment ripened into intimate acquaintance with each other in their search for truth. It doesn't mean they were, had a crush on each other in a secret relationship, right? It's just a really, really good friendship. They loved each other, right? Like that, in that sense. John, who was a son of Zacharias, had already received the doctrines of the Nazarenes as regards reservedness, and he knew perfectly scriptures and traditions, but comprehended not the beautiful and the exalted in this world, nor the laws of nature, as well as Jesus. He felt great dislike for the customs of the heathens, and despised and hated all tyrants. And the time had come when Jesus should be admitted into the first degree of our order, and in the valley of our order had a brotherhood, situated near the mountains where the castle Masada stands, and the elder of our brotherhood met them there and listened to their conversation. He taught them that wisdom and virtue are strengthened by a fraternity, whereupon Jesus, in a transport of great joy, asked that he might be prepared at once for admittance into our holy order. The example set by Jesus was followed by John, and the elder offered up a prayer which made Jesus a devotee of God. So that would be in relation to, they were Essenes of that order, and then they left it and they went preaching on their own. And John was baptized and Jesus was doing the ministry, etc. According to the rules of our order, the elder now said, "You shall be my brethren, or my brothers, as soon as you, by the next new moon, shall see the glare of the fire on the mountain where the temple is built, and where you then will appear. He that is initiated into our order must at the same time dedicate his life to the service of others. Tell your father Joseph that the time is now come for him to fulfill the vow he made at Mount Cassius." The Esseer then departed, but when the child had returned to his home, Joseph was already remembered of his vow and of his duties to our brethren. Yeah, he'd already remembered what he'd promised, what he'd vowed, as a possible initiate into that brotherhood, or get his way in. Joseph then for the first time made known to Jesus that he was not his father. Okay, so all that time Jesus thought that he was his father? Well, that could have some great effect, right? Unless he already knew it. We know of a guy, a very dear friend, a great guy, into his fitness and his muscles and all that sort of stuff. Lovely as Australian guy. He found out through the church that he was going to, through gossip, that his father was not actually his father, and it devastated him. And now he's just completely lost it. We've tried to help him, befriend him, etc., and try to get him back on track, but he's just too far gone. He just doesn't want to know us anymore. Oh, plus he lost his friend, this guy called Steve. We called him Steve McQueen because he didn't really look like him, but that's just called him that, right? Yeah, so I guess it affected him. Took it hard. His mother never told him that his supposed father was not his father at all. That's just horrible. Together they kept secret, Joseph and Jesus, the admission of Jesus into our brotherhood, for fears of the Gaulanites. There must be some Gauls. At the appointed time they saw, in the evening, the fire signal ascend from the mountain, whereupon they immediately set forth to journey thither. They went there, right? They went forward to there. When they were arrived at the temple, they were met by the white-robed messengers sent by the brotherhood. According to our rules, Jesus was initiated into a holy order after the following manner. Both were instructed and shown the way to enter into the assemblage, or the assembly, where the brotherhood, or the brothers, were seated in four separated groups, according to the 4 degrees. Over the scene, the crescent shed its lurid glare. So what's that, the crescent moon? The two were placed before the brethren. There they made their vow. The brethren in the white robes, placing their right hands upon their breasts, actually inside their shirts, jackets, or whatever they had, robes, with their left hanging down at the side. And this was done as a token that none but the pure in heart shall see that which is sacred and holy. Within that place where they were being initiated. and two vowed indifference to the treasures of earth, to worldly power or name, and by the brotherly kiss they vowed obedience and secrecy. It's not a kiss on the lips and the tongue, it's probably on the cheek or something like that. Yeah? It's a greeting thing, customary type thing, right? Or a welcoming to that order. And in obedience to a custom, when these two had made their vow, they were conducted into the lonely cavern where, for 3 days and nights, they were subject to self-examination and trial. In the evening of the third day, they were again brought before the assembled brethren to answer the questions put to them and then to pray. Having received a brotherly kiss, they were clothed in white robes, emblems of sacred purity, and the trowel, emblematic of the labours of our brotherhood, was put into their hands. It's like a little spade, right? Something you dig with to plant, say, some seeds or something like that, or a tree. Having sung the sacred hymns and partaken of the feast of love by themselves according to the custom of our order, none of the brethren participating, they were dismissed. It's a feast of, probably of love in that sense, gratitude, devotion, all that sort of thing. Okay, prayer, worship to God, etc. on their own, in solitude. After this, they were instructed concerning the trials and the disciplines through which they must pass, living in the loneliness of solitude, separate from the world of mankind for the period of 1 year, and at a point near the elder of the order from which they should receive instructions fitting them for advancement in the higher degrees of our order. So they be taught and gradually go up a level, go up another level, be taught again, go up another level, towards the highest level of their order. Both grew rapidly in divine knowledge. Jesus was frank and hearty of disposition, but John shrouded himself in stern seriousness and solitude. When the year of trial and self-examination was past, they were again under the new moon, probably the first of the month, admitted into the order, this time as real members and initiated into the highest science. When they had given a full account of their conduct during the preceding year, and acted in obedience to all the rules of the order, and performed the ceremonies of singing and prayer and partaking of the feast of love, they were conducted to the secret chamber of worship, and there they were instructed and admonished to search the scriptures. Inasmuch as the rules of our order permit the admitted members either to remain with the brotherhood in secret labour and fellowship, or to go out into the world to teach or heal, according to his election, so Jesus chose to go forth teaching, while John chose to become a terapeut, or elder. Jesus felt himself called by the Spirit of God and longed to preach the doctrines of our order to the people. Thus it came to pass that John returned to Judea to live in solitude in the wilderness, and Jesus returned to Nazareth. Here he proved gloriously his virtue and fulfilled his vow to the order. His friend Lazarus had a sister Mary, a lot of Marys popping their name these days, who loved Jesus, and he in his heart returned her love. Okay, so she had a thing for him, he had a thing for her. But according to the rules of our order, an Esseer is not allowed to take unto himself a wife after his own desire, lest the sacred work be thereby retarded. We did see a film not so long ago, Jesus depicted depiction, and someone was saying to him, maybe an elder or friend of the family, was saying, hey, yeah, she's got a thing for you. We know you like her too, or something. And he basically said, oh no, I can't go there. Yeah. And it appeared like he wanted to, but because they said, oh, you should marry her, find your wife, marry her, or whatever. Take her as a wife and all that sort of stuff. She'll be good for you and all that. He says, oh no, I just can't do it. There's something else I have to do. And so it was that Jesus overcame his love for this woman by his dutiful devotion to unselfish service of the brotherhood. But the struggle was hard, and at the hour of their parting, both Jesus and Mary wept bitterly. Yeah, well, they couldn't be together, right? So they had to cry over it, according to this. I have informed you of all these things, my brethren, that you shall indeed know that Jesus was our brother and belonged to our holy order. Thus all doubts and uncertainties on this matter must be ended. Jesus, our brother, willingly suffered death that he might thereby glorify the doctrines of our order, and the greatest reward of our virtue is that we may, in like manner, be allowed to sacrifice ourselves for it, or go to their deaths, being martyrs, because of it. You have heard the accounts which the Jews and his disciples have given concerning him, that they have seen him in the mountains and on the road after they believed him to be dead. The divine providence has given us a minute knowledge of these events that is hidden from the people, and it is our duty to inform you of the facts and reply to your questions relative thereto. Even as I write this, my eyes overflow with tears, and I seem to see our brother in the midst of his torture and in the anguish of death, and my afflicted mind is anew wounded by the recollection of his majestic courage and self-sacrifice. He was sent of God, chosen by the Almighty, beloved of us all, and inspired both in teachings and in the knowledge of nature and its elements. Hear then, my brethren or brothers, what occurred in Jerusalem 7 Passovers ago. I have seen it all with my own eyes, and with my lips I have kept it a secret, that the world should not know it, for the Jews and the heathen believe only in the things they have seen with their eyes, and so they have no faith in God beyond that which they can conceive with their senses. So what he's saying there is these non-believers, this ungodly, will say, well, prove it. You say he existed, prove it. You say he did this, prove it. Where's your proof? If I don't see him, well, he doesn't exist. Therefore, my dear brethren or brothers, you should give praise to God that it has thus come to pass. We have kept these things a secret from the people, lest their belief in providence should be diminished